Welcome to Voices in Hyperspace, where friends get together and discuss all things sci-fi. The current mission is to go over season 3 of the hit 90s epic soap opera Babylon 5.
And today we're looking at episode 2 of season 3 called Convictions. I'm Legendary Black Lion.
I'm Captain Melisilo.
Hey y'all, this is Sunday.
And I wanted to do something a little different because this episode is much slower and much smaller. Well, I don't know exactly about smaller, but it's much slower than the other episodes and it's focusing inward. And I thought it was really cool because it's looking at a lot of different themes. The basic plot of it is that there is a serial bomber. What did they call these guys back in the 90s? Because this happened a lot in the 90s.
Yeah.
Because there was the Unabomber, and that was a big story back then.
Did they just, I don't remember. I feel like they just named them bombers.
With this bomber, the audience is being asked a question like, what motivations could there be for these violent radical attacks? And so we're going to take a look at that. But I wanted to say, going from the 90s, this episode, into today is very interesting because during the climax, we do hear some of the bomber's reasonings, some of his motivations, and it sounds so familiar. While to this day, people are not really blowing things up, they are taking different radical actions. And the other interesting part is, along with that, is the concept of change. The times are changing. And we've been talking about that since the end of season 1. Remember, Sinclair was like, everything's changed, and he just did not look happy. And so we're going to be dealing with that. There was also the issue of life's unfairness. And I thought that was really crazy. When we get there, we're going to kind of focus in on that. There's the other two issues that I'm like, this is kind of crazy that the episode dealt with. There is a character that sacrifices himself for a known war criminal. And he speaks as if he regrets that. And I thought that was really interesting. And tell me what you feel about this, Mel. Where we are in the season, the Narn Centauri conflict sounds a lot like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Yeah, very much so.
Or maybe it's the most visible right now.
Most recent conflict to look like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I would say there are other conflicts in history that look exactly like this, but, well, not exactly like this, but,
but very similar.
Technology, yeah, different places, very enormously similar. It's something that happens to intelligent beings, apparently.
Well, intelligent beings that are imperialistic.
Well, they just keep doing the same thing over and over again, like just slapping a new race of people in the positions like they're filling a role in a play.
Yeah.
Because capitalism and, like y'all said, imperialism is still like a thing, and unity and cooperation is not being strived for. So we keep repeating all the same mistakes over and over.
And I thought it came out a little bit in what's his name? His nonsense when he went to go talk to Lenir.
Oh,
what he
Londo.
Was saying, yeah, Londo was speaking about. He was making no sense, but I think he was kind of making sense. I think the writers were making no sense, but was making sense by him not making any sense. So someone showed him empathy. Someone showed him an empathy that he didn't understand, that he wouldn't have done. So that's why he sounds like you don't know what he's talking about, because he doesn't. He's trying to he appreciates what he did, but he doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
I was just going to mention how wild it was that Lenir saved him, because I understand that is at the core who Lenir is. So it was just instinctual to save somebody. But it is clear that he was not interested in actually saving him if he had time to like process and think.
Yeah. So when we get there, let's definitely expand on that because it is a conflict that Lenir struggles with. So the opening I thought was interesting, but they tried to make it a joke, and I think this is again J. Michael Straczynski's approach to religion. He has a very interesting lens on it, because we see the two Drazi pilgrims are on the station, and they're there due to Droshala's appearance. This is where I thought, like, okay, maybe that same dude is not the same Drazi, but that mask is the same mask. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is okay. I feel like the better production value for this season excuses it a little bit.
So usually they don't reuse the mask unless they're just reusing the model for the mask, like the mold to make the mask.
Yeah.
Which is actually very, very possible.
Yeah. I feel like their color is a little bit better too. Well, a little bit more detailed. Because looking at Zach, maybe it's the copy that we were watching too, but Zach looks like he has a little bit more texture to his face. Yeah. But the way that Garibaldi and Zach both deal with the pilgrims, they're kind of dismissive. They're like, hey, our mythological being appeared here, and I don't like, what would have the humans thought, right? We only know what Sheridan saw. We don't know anything else. Maybe Garibaldi does know that it's Kosh. Maybe he doesn't. But Zach definitely doesn't know. That dude's kind of dumb, you know?
Well, wasn't it only the people in the garden that really saw him?
Yeah.
All of the diplomats saw him. So I don't think the other people really know what happened. Right. Really got to see him, like everyone else got to see him. So they're just taking the word of what their diplomat told the rest of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, the diplomat was like, hey, I saw a religious figure, and now all the religious people are coming. Like, it's Mecca or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And Garibaldi takes off. He dumps the burden on Zach. And Zach is like, don't touch me. Go touch that flower over there. So we switched to down below. And we have our inciting incident for the episode. Some lurkers are looking for some things to sell, because there's still lurkers on this ship, y'all. I mean, on the station, y'all. And I thought this was really messed up, because this shows how much ingenuity, creativity this bomber has. Because that dude gets trapped basically into a giant mouse trap, and it blows up, like killing him. And throughout the first part of the show, we see that there are several of these devices set up, and all of the responses are like, this is scary. What are we going to do? It definitely comes across as terrorism. And I thought also, isn't it interesting that Garibaldi is doing his job in this episode? Like, it's not the best he's ever done, but he's doing like really good.
Like I noticed in the other episodes, when the conflicts got wider outside of Babylon 5, he's just a goofball. But he actually does his job when it comes to, at least he does work when it comes to actually what's going on inside of Babylon 5.
Because he's only given all the information about, like, oh, whenever we see a bomb, there's probably a message. It's probably politically motivated. And those words stuck out to me. But at the end, like, would you call the bombers' reasons politically motivated per se? Because I'm not sure.
Not directly.
Yeah.
I mean, to an extent, the politics will affect how the economics flow. But a lot of it was literally a personal problem.
Yeah.
He's taking out on everybody else.
Right.
He needs therapy.
He needs a lot of therapy. And he's traveling around the galaxy with his issues.
Taking it out on everybody else. Like, that's where he think it belongs. And unfortunately, there are people who are like, oh, well, I was upset about something else, so I hurt other people. And that's it. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's very,
I don't know.
even very much unhinged.
Oh yeah. Before we jump ahead, there is another group of people to be introduced in the show, and it is a bunch of Catholic monks. And again, I don't know, J. Michael Straczynski and his view and I guess joke about religion, because their reason for wanting to stay on the station is, okay, we want to learn about God, but from all the other different races. And I guess we kind of get put in this place because of Kasha's rescue of Sheridan, and it's gonna attract a lot of religious people. But I'm kind of curious, in either one of you that have like some thoughts on this. And I think I asked this during the first and second season too, like, what is the purpose, especially of like something like Catholicism and Christianity, many of the monotheistic religions from Earth. What is their place in space? And then what do you think their place is in a space opera?
I think from a story, especially a sci-fi story perspective, there's always that human element most of the time that is supposed to draw the reader or the watcher into that other place. So grounding the ideas of religion to religions that we already have would be that grounding, relatable aspect. Like, I'm going to take you there, but we got to start here because that's where I know you are. That's how it kind of feels like to me. It also kind of feels like maybe because this is a more bleak perspective of the future, that we just don't progress outside of the religions that we have. There's also a huge theme of where he's trying to take us, which I think has influenced me since my childhood, that the idea of religion is not as concrete as the religions like Christianity or that we start with, that he usually starts with.
Yeah, I agree, because throughout the series we see different versions of Christianity, and there are a couple that we're going to meet coming up. I think either is end of this season or next season, or maybe I feel like maybe he has a religious episode each season. Well, he likes to explore that. But we also see how Christianity changes, because it's not like dogmatic because people are living in space, and so they're like, oh, well, let's go into outer space and figure out what other people think about God. And and of course, the person that they have to harass is Ivanova, who is like, she's like,
oh God, hello.
Yeah. Right. And she's not happy with these monks, and she's trying to figure out a way to say no to them until they reveal that they have technical expertise, which I'm like, okay, there we go. They have things that they can do. I mean, they wear those old robes, from like what, the 1200s or 1600s, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But they're good with computers.
Does it sound like they were just trying to live on the ship? Like, hey, we're going to come and live here. They're like, how? Like other people have tried, apparently.
Yeah.
You're going to go live in the tunnels down below with the singers? Like...
Right, yeah. Were those singers human?
I don't know.
No.
I don't think so.
That'd be an interesting encounter. We have them in the story, and they do serve a purpose. Actually, they serve a really good purpose, because there's something that Garibaldi points out. It's like, we need the manpower to do this, and it's like, ta-da, manpower.
It's funny because they have the manpower to do what our technology can do now.
Well, yeah, because we have AI now too, but facial recognition, identification. Yo, so they have that that augmented reality experience at the airport. It's so stupid. You got to stand like in this certain square, and it'll show all the information for you on the thing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, my cell phone does this. I don't need to like look at this board. This is so weird. I don't know. Anyway, Yo, when they revive the show, they need to put that in there. That would be crazy.
Oh, what,
Augmented reality and AI and all that fun stuff.
It would get rid of half the plots.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Well, there's a way to...
maybe not half the plots. But so much of the metaphors and so much of the so many driving points in the story to get the transitions of the story had to do with not having the technology that we have 150 years before.
Yeah.
Not that they could tell, but...
Yeah. All right. The next part of the story, this is kind of getting us into one of our discussion points. It is weird, first off, because it's Delenn and Londo getting off of a transport, and they were off somewhere. Ambassadors, whatever. And then there is an explosion, and Lenir is there to greet them. The explosion goes off. He pushes Londo out of the way, and there's a blast door that closes, and Lenir is basically being cooked in the room.
I was instantly upset. I thought they had killed Lenir. I'm like, oh my gosh. I kind of felt like if he dies, I'll stop watching this show.
And so this is the question. Well, this is the topic of Lenir's sacrifice. Lenir, a very devout member of the religious caste, just saved the life of Darth Vader, basically, the galaxy's tyrant. He has a hairline fracture in his skull. He is in a coma, and he's dealing with, he's in a coma, but us as the audience, we're dealing with, like, this fool just saved this dude's life. We don't like him. Like,
we've been definitely trying to kill him.
Right.
When I first saw it, I didn't even know it was Londo. Like, I just saw a Centauri. Like, just knowing that the Centauri kind of very much backs up what the government has been doing. It's kind of like a little bit of hesitance. I don't know. But Lenir, it was in his personality to save life no matter what.
Yeah.
It's not his place to harm.
Yeah, but...
So that class is to do that.
Right. But near the end of the episode, he does mention something, because he's lamenting his position, because basically Londo stays with him the entire time, just thanking him. In the scene together in the med lab, Londo is very, like, clumsily trying to show his appreciation. This kind of reminds me of when Londo was all like, I don't have any friends. Nobody likes me. He's like, oh my God, my only friend who I tried to get drunk and was in a bar fight with, he saved my life.
Well, and right before Lenir wakes up and says that he kind of regrets it, Franklin retells the joke that Londo tells him, and when he wakes up to finish the joke, that's when he says that he regrets it. It's like, I saved your life, and all you can do is think about
the empire.
Your empire.
Yeah.
Thousands of yeah. And it's kind of like, dang, that was the guy I saved. I'm having regret.
Yeah. It makes me think of a story that my mom, an experience my mom had. There was a family member that she was married into who very much despised my mom. And then this person was in a really terrible car accident and went into a coma, and no one knew like when or if she would wake up. And it seemed as if the presence of and the sound of my mom's voice awoken this family member in order for her to have a rebuttal to my mom.
My God.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so
like, wait, I need to wake up so I can tell you how much I hate your guts. Okay, I'm done. dead.
So yeah, the people definitely like are able to still perceive things that are happening while they're in the coma. So I thought it was highly unusual for the doctor to leave Lenir with
Londo. Oh, that doctor too.
Londo.
That doctor was like, she wasn't having it. She didn't like Londo either.
Right. So I was quite concerned with like, why is what is her name? Delin not the one that's there, because Lenir is constantly backing her and standing up for her and putting himself in harm's way for her. And I understand she's like got to go and do her job or whatever, but
she has destiny.
Man,
I don't know.
F all that. I mean, she was still acting as what is her job?
She's like an ambassador.
An ambassador.
Yeah.
And she had to go be with the families or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, they can't wait. Lenir's in the hospital.
I'm glad you said that, because they did have to get her out of the room. So, and that made sense. But it you know, this situation brings up some questions about morality, because, like, I mean, Londo is just a few short steps away from being a straight up dictator himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like being sat next to Idi Amin, right? Or any of the other world dictators that we've known. And you basically are like, okay, I'm going to treat all life like it has the same value, even though this person does not. Londo is he's largely seen as morally ambiguous. And that's just kind of an interesting dynamic, because Lenir is like, I want to protect all life. And we have this dilemma, and it's kind of a cool juxtaposition. You may want to look at it in a practical sense and say, maybe what he did was actually wrong. Like, keeping this monster alive was probably a bad thing. But knowing how the series goes, who knows? Because if Londo goes, what other bigger monster would Rifa send to the station? What kind of...
Hated it.
Yeah.
I hate that perspective.
Yeah.
We're going to keep the monster that we know.
Right. Right. So bombs keep going off in the station, and they're all just like freaking out, right? I like how Sheridan is asking the exact right questions in this episode. I always compliment that they know how to use Sheridan correctly. After a bit, Garibaldi and his team, they discover there's a bomb on Brown 7. This is again down below, and it's minor injuries and whatnot. Like, I think nobody died in this one, but this is where they're starting to find, trying to put together all the pieces. Like, where did the bomber come from? What is his motivations? What does he know? And they're profiling this guy. It's kind of like a police procedural. This is after Londo has, spent his time with Lenir. He's on his way out, and he goes to the transport lift. And who's standing there right across from him, face to face with him? Jakar. I don't know what it is with all these Centauri finding Jakar in that same elevator. I'm wondering, like, does he plan on being in the elevator with one of them, and then things going wrong? I don't know. It might be a setup.
I would think, because the diplomats have their own sector, that there's only one elevated lift that goes there to like restrict access to it. So anyone trying to get home is going to have to use that one. That way diplomats can run into each other, and we can close up where we have interactions and who's around.
Yeah.
I think it's a while, though, that Londo is so weak that you choose not to ride the elevator with Jakar. Yeah. It just shows his weakness when he's like, I'll just wait for the next one. Yeah, you do that. He should have hit the button on him a little faster so he got caught in the hallway.
See, and that's the thing, right? We see Londo escape death twice in this episode. In this one, the bomb is going off, he turned, like, as he's turning around, he's like, oh, not going that way. He does a face dive into the elevator, and then the flame goes by, and both of them are knocked unconscious. And they're kind of left in the elevator for a while the other stuff is going on in the episode. You know, they're looking for the bombs. They find stuff out about the bomber. They recruit the monks to do the facial recognition. And so there they are. And I thought this scene was cleverly set up. When Londo comes to, the elevator's got, you know, full of debris. And Jakar's just sitting there. He's sitting upright, and he's over Londo. And Londo is like, how long have I been out? 2 hours? You mean you haven't done anything in these 2 hours?
How do you know he hasn't done anything? That was my point. That was my first thought. Like, you don't know what he's done. You've been out for 2 hours.
Right. Because, I mean, did Jakar lose consciousness? I'm not sure. But this is where we're faced with another kind of like moral question.
Like, how do you kill him and make it look like the bomb did it?
Yeah. Okay.
Plan was just to sit there and die with him. Like, we gonna suffocate in here together.
Yeah. Because Jakar's hate for him is deep.
And now I'm pretty sure he could have broke his neck. Well, he jumped in and the force of the blast sent him right into the wall. It's fucked up.
I don't know if he could have broken his neck in the way that you would if you would. I guess he would have to slam him into the wall to break his neck. To make it look like he is. I think to just twist his neck and snap it to kill him would have looked like it was snapped. Like, Franklin would have figured that out.
Right. And it would be Franklin too, because Garibaldi wouldn't understand it, what he's looking at.
Yeah, we gonna skip over Franklin.
For some reason, this dead body looks like it was picked up and thrown, and not.
He'd examined the direction of the fracture.
Yep. And then they would be wondering, like, Jakar, how come you didn't suffer any problems? That's part of the question too. So, or that's part of the dilemma. The tension between Londo and Jakar, it kind of highlights, like, okay, Jakar has a personal vendetta. The person who is responsible for the massacre of his people is sitting right there, unconscious in front of me. All he has to do is a quick little jerk, one side, bam, dude's dead. But when Londo is asking, like, you've done nothing to help me, and Jakar's like, I don't have to do anything. Both of us are stuck. I could just watch you die. And Londo's like, with the heat in the air, we'll die pretty quickly. You'll die too. And Jakar's like, good. And he's laughing at him. He's like,
he
good.
played off so well, because when they Londo's like freaking out and yelling and accusing him of stuff, and he's just sitting there smirking at him. I'm like, is he really smirking? And then the scene kept going, like, yes, he is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the guttural laughter was priceless. He could not collect himself. He was so enthused, by his plight. Like, this is the best.
Londo was like, can you hear me? He's like, I hear you.
Yeah.
Yes. Londo was like, hey, with a little work, we could probably go through the ceiling. He's like, no, why would I do that? I don't need to do all that. I want to see you die. Right. And Londo was like, well, then why don't you just kill me? And Jakar is very smart. He cites the surrender treaty. Yeah. Where he's like, remember, if one Narn kills a Centauri, you will execute the Narn, 500 Narns, including his family. Like, I don't need to go through all that. I'm not going to hurt my people. I'm just going to watch you die. And I'm going to be satisfied with that. And he thought that was good enough for his revenge. And it was kind of crazy because, okay, they barely depict it in the episode. Like, the lighting is dark, it's red, but you don't, like, they're cooking in the elevator. The fires are not going out, and it's getting hotter in there. And it's just a matter of time before one of them, slips into the sea of stars. I think this is also kind of J. Michael Straczynski. In general, is treating the audience like, okay, you're supposed to have this idea of who are the good guys, right? So what would a good guy thing to do be? Which would, we're trapped, let's get help. Jakar is never introduced as a good guy. And Londo, we know he's not a good guy. So these are two bad people. Opposite sides of their political spectrums. In the end, where they're being rescued finally, and the only thing they have energy to do is insult each other. Because Jakar is just frustrated. He's like, damn it, we were supposed to die in here. And Londo was like, yes, my life is saved again. Oh, let me say this. Londo came into, he had a brush with death twice. He almost got blown up twice in this episode and escaped both of them. How's that for universal justice?
Terrible.
But the insults. Londo calls him bastard. Jakar calls him monster. Londo calls him fanatic. Jakar calls him murderer. Londo calls him insane. In fact, at the beginning of the episode when they were like, okay, we got this bomber on the loose, and they went to speak to each of these ambassadors, they each called the other race irrational. Like, this is what they do. In fact, I remember Londo saying, like, now that we have the non-aggression agreement with the humans, the Narn are going to do to you what they've been doing to us the entire time, which is terror. He was blaming them as terrorism.
I recall now a point before they got trapped in the elevator. Both of them were going to the authorities of Babylon 5 and accusing the other of being the bomber. Mm-hmm. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's when they were like, they're irrational. So they both recognize it's irrational to just be randomly blowing up people. And they each think that they're the civilized society. And they're like, no, look at them. They're uncivilized. We hate them. Honestly, I think this is kind of a liberal take to try to like both sides of the situation. I think there's just like a general, like universal perspective that colonizers are not the good guys. Like, you can't colonize people and enforce a type of galactic apartheid and then be like, we're innocent. And Rifa kind of says the same thing. He's like, we ain't subject to these rules. That's kind of like the perspective of empire.
It sounds a lot like, am I saying the word wrong again? A reflection. Like, anytime someone who's guilty, who doesn't want to admit to their guilt, does something wrong, and they need to make the person that they did wrong look like the person that was wrong. There came out wrong.
Oh, no, I hear what you're saying.
Saying like a Darvo kind of situation?
Yeah, exactly. As they are oppressors, they will just make other people think. Yeah, they have to take the blame off of themselves and make everyone else look like they're the oppressors. Kind of like what we're seeing today.
We're not racist. You're the real racist by pointing out racism.
You're trying to take away people's freedoms. We're not the ones trying to take away people's freedoms.
We want to be as racist and as xenophobic as we possibly can, because that's true freedom. Anyway. I want to kind of like focus on the Unabomber. Because this started to sound, like I said, this started to sound extremely familiar. The bomber is kind of like a blue-collar guy, if you can call it that. Blue-collar in space, right? He worked on some mines. He traveled to the station on some of these liners. The suspect's name is Robert Carlson. He was hired by Station Engineering He lived in Blue 19. He had traveled around a little bit doing these different types of engineering jobs. If people are not fully aware, engineering doesn't mean that like you're making ships. It doesn't mean you're making engines all the time. It just means like sometimes.
Not like my engineer.
No, not like your engineer. Your engineer is cool. He's over there like recalibrating, the warp core and all that, right?
Yeah.
Or like Garrus and recalibrating the Thanix cannon all the time. I don't know. Mass Effect fans will understand that.
He's trying to find more efficient ways to transfer the electronics, to redirect the electronics.
Yeah, stuff like that. In my line of work, engineering means that you are a janitor and you can change lights, or you can do you can install electrics. You have what is it? You can install electricity. You have your certification, stuff like that. So like you can turn the power off and rewire things, turn it back on. That's engineering. In some places. This guy is smart with information on explosives and all that stuff. Doesn't sound too very different from our militia friends who follow conspiracy theories and they're ready to blow people up. So,
right.
And what we learn is he doesn't necessarily have a political stance on things. He's just upset that things are happening to him personally, like you said. We learn about his motivations when he takes Sheridan hostage. He goes on a rant about like how his life just wasn't fair. He wants an audience for himself. He explains that it's chaotic times and I'm just an instrument of our times, right? And people need to understand fear. And what he points out is that he was a nobody at home. His wife walked out on him, which thinking of, just kind of looking at his personality, of course she did. Like, why would she want to stay with you? He lost his job. He lost his apartment. People walked all over him. He looked at it like life is not fair. People are doing all these things to me. And this started to make me think of a lot of things that I've been hearing about some of these extremists these days. Some of it reminds me of some of the men's rights trolls on social media. In fact, we know that some of them act out violently towards women because we've seen it. Also, some of those other movements. One of them is I don't know what to call it, but it's like, and you know what I mean, Mel. It's like the young white men who are not being catered to. And so they feel lonely. They feel neglected by society.
The incels?
No, not specifically incels.
Okay.
Not specifically incels, even though incel is in there.
The red pill dudes.
Yeah, there you go. Red pill guys. That's what I wanted to say. That's who it kind of reminds me of red pill guys. They feel like white men are the most hated group of people on the planet. And it's like, they're not. Per se, just because all the people that were done wrong by white men don't like white men doesn't mean that white men are the most hated, because guess who really likes white men? Other white men.
Right.
And it's a lot of them. It's a lot. A whole
It's
lot.
like I want to have hatred against other people, but I can't be seen that way because I know that it's technically wrong. So I need in order to do that, I have to put that hate on me that I put on other people.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. It's them. They're the ones that's wrong. There's this one really famous like red pill alpha male guys, and they're people of color, and they're like, black women are the worst, and we hate black women, and they hate all women, but they like really talk down on black women.
Yeah.
That we're just the most terrible things to ever be born. When they're the ones who are actually being nasty to everyone they ever come in contact with, other than other white men.
I saw a really nice perspective on people who claim the alpha perspective, because like the alpha is, I can't remember the first connection it made, but the second one was like the alpha version of anything is usually the worst version of it because it's the first, and then you got to fight all the bugs and kinks in it.
Yeah, that's what they do in tech. Yeah,
that's interesting. And I mean, that's the interesting part, because I wrote on here there are some conservatives who struggle in certain social connections. Remember, there was a story a few years ago where there was like these conservative dating apps where all the women who went to them ended up not liking dating conservative men. And so conservative men felt like they were under attack because women don't like us just because we're conservative. And it turns out it's because you're an asshole. And there's something about your perspective that attracts assholes. I don't know. Then there's the bro science guys. All of these are red pills. Bro science guys, traditionalists, they talk about traditional women. I'm bringing this up because this is what it reminds me of. I don't think this is exactly the point that they're trying to make in the episode, but that dude was very much a red pill guy. Like, why is the world against me? Why does everybody want to walk all over me?
And the red pill thing, one, comes from the Matrix, which is also a 90s thing. So it wasn't technically a thing, but it's based on a lot of stuff that already existed. Yeah. So, yeah.
And they misinterpreted it too, because the Matrix is a story about trans realization. And the red pill is about accepting your identity as a trans person. It's wild. Anyway.
Well, the bomber also reminds me of like school shooters.
Yeah.
Like, everybody hates me, and so everybody else has to pet. And I don't care who gets hurt. Y'all just need to hear.
Because they're entitled. They're entitled to their opinion, but they're going to make it everybody else's problem.
Yo, that is a dynamic that I am running into quite a lot in the industry of poker. Because in order to play this game, you have to have a certain financial status to even be able to afford to participate, right? And oh my goodness, the amount of entitlement that comes, it's like a bunch of 40-year-old toddlers. Like, you think that you were supposed to win a hand of luck? Like, there's 52 cards in this deck. There's a trillion different ways that they could have folded out. When you lose, it's just... It's really not that big of a deal. It was going to happen a large percentage of the time. Why are you crying?
Right.
I don't know how to lose.
That's the point. He doesn't know how to lose. And we have a number of people in this country who don't know how to lose. They're like, we're not going to take it anymore. And it's like, bro, y'all lost. Like,
let it go.
The thing that you're upset about was over and done with about 200 years ago. Like, like traditional women, that shit ain't coming back.
Hell no, not if I got anything to do with it.
And what they call in tradition is just, I feel like calling it traditional is just gaslighting. Because there's nothing traditional about it.
It's a type of subservience. And I'm pretty sure we'll get a chance to talk a little bit more about it in the other episodes. I wanted to point out, like, okay, we're harping on white men, but it's really important to point out that Mel also explained black men, there are other men of color, and there is like this type of supremacy culture that permeates this subculture of the red pill, the alpha male, and also men's rights. That is just a weird thing to say, because men are not an oppressed group.
Right. And like the original men's rights was for men who were like who actually needed rights. They were like parents who wanted to make sure that they got their visitations and stuff. There are women who will keep the kids from the parents. There are women who have taken advantage of men in order just to get a check. And they want to be able to be a part of the child's lives. Yeah. Or also men who are abused to be able to have a space to say, yes, I was abused without it being like a scary thing. But then,
but that's
the loud
men.
ones took over.
Yeah, but that's also men scared of other men. Like the reason why it's looked down upon for a man to be weak is because of other men. Like I don't want to look weak in front of my male friends. So yeah, there's a lot of nuance in there, and I don't want this to be like, let's beat up on white people, because there will be plenty of time to do that later in this series.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm just going to add one of the biggest components to the alpha male space. One of the first guys to really get into it was a black man, and he got famous for just telling black women that they weren't good enough.
I know who you're talking about. The dude that died. I can't remember his name.
Died.
But yeah, and on it, Kevin Samuels. Yeah.
Kevin Samuels.
And the thing is, like, there's a lot of people that follow that because he said some basic stuff that people were already thinking, but it just kind of stroked the ego of already pieces of shit men and their hatred for women.
Hurt by a woman, and you're going to give me a short answer as to why they hurt me, and now I have a place where I think I put my anger.
Right, they're trying to find refuge for their egos. The thing about that, like, okay. This episode doesn't really highlight that per se, other than his wife walked out on him.
We kind of ran with that.
Yeah. But there's some other themes that he brought up. There's some other things that he brought up. He lost his job, he lost his apartment, all of that stuff. There's the economic issue in the galaxy, because remember, there's a war going on. There's the aggression by the Centauri, plus whatever the Earth's telepaths are doing. There's a lot of instability in the galaxy, and that's going to affect the economy. That's going to affect people's jobs, like engineers, because remember, he's a janitor that can change light bulbs.
But sir, you are in a quarters by yourself. There are people down below that are like basically sleeping on the floor. Yeah. What are you really complaining about?
He was hired, though. He had a job on the station. Yeah.
I mean, it sucked, but he had a job.
He had a job.
And I think, not just the whole "my wife left me" goes into the alpha male, because having status and having money is like, oh, you got that job. You don't have a job that's making you, that's still not paid for a Bugatti.
Right. Got you. So he could have had this sense of like, I deserve to be at a better station in life than I am now, and it's everybody's fault, and so I'm going to appease my own ego by blowing shit up, so everybody can look at me, and if you're not going to praise me, you're going to be afraid of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I didn't get a Bugatti.
I ain't got a Bugatti spaceship.
Instead of getting a Bugatti, I lost my job and my woman.
Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to add this in there, the perceived powerlessness. If people walked all over me. This is when people feel lack of control over their own lives. And this is in the examples that we gave, but the way Carlson explained it, people walked all over me. They treated me like trash, which there are some aspects of that. One, the type of people that you surround yourself with, or, the type of environments that you're in, that can play a factor. But then there's also like, maybe there's something about him where people just don't like him. I mean, he did turn out to be a Unabomber, so
yeah.
You know how you get like a creepy feeling from people?
Mm-hmm.
That's him.
Well, and some people will dislike you if they sense that you don't like yourself. Because I mean, half of my stories about the old gossipy ladies that will treat me like a child when I am one of the teachers, and came from a part of my life where I was not confident with myself at all. So they treated me as though I was someone who wasn't confident. I won't blow nothing up.
All right, we'll start harping on that. But it's just, these things kind of stood out because if you really think about it, he had no reason to be upset with anybody except maybe himself or EarthGov maybe in the aftermath of the Centauri-Narn War, people were kind of like rushing to take over territory and do things, right? So maybe that was an opportunity that passed him by, you know. And it's a difficult thing because there's not really anything systemic that is causing his issues. It's him. Like, you got fired from a job? Okay, cool. Go get another one, bro. You got skills. You are in space, bro. Like,
hello.
You can make bombs. You should have. Look, go take your bomb making skills to the Centauri. You got a job, bro.
Take your bomb making skills to the Narn. They the ones that need it.
I know, right? They the ones who needed it. They would have paid their life savings for it. Yeah.
Seller's market for stuff like that.
Yeah. And again, this is not beat up on white guys. This is just kind of, seeing some things that look familiar in our news. I know that they dealt with it differently in the 90s. But there's parts of it that they still kind of deal with it now. Like, he was a lone wolf. He didn't have a single person help him. That makes me think, like, how did he get that mousetrap cage in Brown Sector set up? Like, somebody had to have seen him, like, carry stuff down there.
And then go bomb he set on the side of the station.
Right.
Like, how did you get that there? We don't have teleporters.
He worked on the reactor. He had access. So he probably did like a spacewalk. But how you do a spacewalk with that big old thing? Yeah.
He had, unless he put it together out there. Like, he every day took out 2 pieces.
He Shawshanked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the episode coming to a conclusion, basically, I thought it was funny, like some little tidbits just kind of round this off. When they found Carlson, he knew that he was found out. Oh, it was the monks who found him, did the facial recognition. They were the AI. When he knew he was found out, so they were going to like go straight up to his apartment in Blue Sector. But he hacked the loudspeaker. I'm telling you, this dude had a lot of really cool skills. If he had played his cards right, he would have been part of Garibaldi's security team. I'm telling you.
But he wasn't trained by Garibaldi, so.
Right. But remember, he basically said, don't come any closer, I'm going to blow everything up. I want to see Sheridan. Don't bring your link. I want to make sure you're by yourself. And the weird thing is, Sheridan was like, I'm going to keep my communicator on. And he's all like, well, what are you going to do with that? He was like, I want to make sure you guys can hear me. Garibaldi's like, you're going to get searched. He'll find it in a second. And then Sheridan is like, well, where should I put it? Asking the wrong person, because where he ended up putting it was between them cheeks.
I mean, he didn't search there, did he?
No, he didn't. No.
He was right. He didn't search. And it wasn't enough to muffle it either. Say something about making a wrong move and we'll know what you have for lunch.
Oh, my God. Yeah. They had that whole scene so they can make a butt joke with Garibaldi. Mm-hmm. Seemed to enjoy that way too much. Another note is Sheridan did go in by himself. He was forced to. It wasn't his own choice. He wasn't putting his life on the line per se. But he got beat up. Like, he was doing a one-on-one fight with this guy, got beat up, and that's how he lost the detonator. Dude set it off, but by then security had found the bomb, and it blows up harmlessly in space. And he was so upset that he didn't have his spectacular ending.
Death.
Yeah.
You ruined my death.
Was that
And they found the bomb by listening to his butt.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's from The Incredibles.
Yep. So I felt like we went over this a little too fast, but we did have a special guest character.
Oh, I forgot. Yes.
Morishi, who is played by Kari Hideoki Tagawa, who is none other than Shang Tsung himself in the Mortal Kombat film from the 1990s, stealing people's souls and their hearts ever since.
Your soul is mine. I feel like I've seen him in a lot of movies, and he's always a bad guy.
Yeah, he's in a lot of movies and TV shows. He was in The Last Emperor, Showdown in Little Tokyo. He was in a James Bond film, American Me, Rising Sun. I used to watch Rising Sun in the 90s. That was a cool show. It was very dramatic. Mortal Kombat, The Phantom, Falling Snow. Let me look at what he's in more recently. Memoirs of a Geisha. Oh. He was in Tekken, 47 Ronin, Tekken 2. They made 2 of those. He's in The Man in a High Castle, and I think I remember him in that. He was in the Netflix series Lost in Space. I thought that was pretty cool. He played in an episode of Clarissa Explains It All. I remember that. And they spoofed his role in Mortal Kombat. So, anyway.
For it to be quite like a filler episode, which this show rarely does, it was really good. And it pulled a lot of strong themes together. It was a really good episode.
Yeah. So, what's the theme, the morality of confronting your personal pain and how to interact with it? Because we saw Lenir completely ignore it and still go by his beliefs. We saw Jakar really think about his situation and consider what he could do based on how he felt. And then we have one person's feelings just go off the rails.
Yeah.
So there was the 3 layers of it.
Ooh, the part that you said about Jakar, now that you say it, points it out. Jakar thought very clearly about his situation, and he felt that the best thing that he could do was nothing. And with Jakar, the entire series, they've been taking his power away. He could never do anything. Isn't that wild? He can never do anything, and so he chose to do nothing. Yeah.
And he felt joy over that. I mean, he had to, because, like you said, he couldn't do anything all this time, and now he had the ability to make change by doing nothing.
Yep. All right. Well, that's this episode. I would like to thank you all for joining us for Voices in Hyperspace. Be sure to join us on all of your favorite streaming services. Share with your friends. Check out our YouTube channel. Like, share, follow. Hey, and I know some of y'all like to listen to us while you're at work. Go ahead and download that YouTube music app. We're on there too. Or you can use any of the other streaming services. We're pretty good with Spotify and Amazon. It's all good. You want to continue the conversation? Look for us over on Facebook at Voices in Hyperspace. Join our group. And make sure you have fun with us there. For me, I'm Legendary Black Lion. You can find me on Instagram.
I'm Captain Mel Asylum. You can find my website, bellsrebellion.com, where there are links to most of my social media.
Hey, y'all. This is Sunday. You'll find me at a poker table.
All right. We'll see you out there.